You are listening to an exclusive interview on Bass Musician Magazine. The interview starts now.
Hey everybody, this is Raul for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist and vocalist Kelli Mayo. Some of you may recognize Kelli. She plays with the group Skating Polly, and they're a trio. Basically, it's bass, drums, and guitar. A lot of what I've seen Kelli doing is playing and singing. And we'll come on to Skating Polly, but let's take a step back. How did you get started in music and on bass, Kelli?
I just grew up from a very musical family. Like, I always knew I was probably going to be part of some musical project. I loved singing. That was like my favorite thing. And I wanted to play just a normal 4-string bass, like a normal bassist would, but I couldn't. Whenever I first started playing music and writing songs, I was 9 years old, so I couldn't actually reach on a full-scale bass. I always complained about guitar, about it hurting my fingers. So my dad made me this bass guitar, like Morphine or the Presidents of the United States of America play. So it was just this 2 bass strings on a guitar body tuned to C sharp and G sharp, and when you hold them both on the same fret, it makes a chord. And so I played that for a while, maybe a year, and then it broke because I had it on this really cheap, small guitar. And so I put it on a bass instead, and I broke that one, and then I just started writing songs on a normal bass, but I'd only use the E string. So now it is a 3-string bass. I believe I'm the only person who plays it. And it's E, C sharp, G sharp, and I have it on a miniature bass.
And as you move forward, are you self-taught or did you go to school?
Yeah, I'm self-taught. Peyton, my sister, who plays in the band with me and started the band with me, she took drum lessons for a second, and then she'd kind of teach me what she knew. And everyone in my family was just jack of all trades with instruments. So I would just pick up things from them and went to so many concerts and just listened to a lot of music. And I don't know, my mindset was always, it doesn't really matter how musically capable you are, as long as you're just really passionate and just being honest and real. So I wrote really, really simple songs at first, and then with every album I would try just to write something that I didn't know how to play, pretty much, to better my musicianship. And yeah.
Seeing that Peyton, your sister, is another third of Skating Polly, how is it that you guys kind of decided to put together? Well, making a group was probably just finding one more person to help out, right?
Yeah. Peyton wanted to start a band with high schoolers. She was 14 and she wanted to start a band with people in her grade. And I just begged her. I was like, they're not going to take it seriously. I'll take it seriously. And so I begged her and I wore her out. The second she gave me a yellow light on the whole situation, I wrote our first song, a 2-note song. She put drums to it, and then she also she was learning how to play guitar and songwriting and stuff herself. So she taught me how to play drums, and we just did that switching thing. Mm-hmm. We kind of would just write on any instrument we had in our house. I had a keyboard. Someone gave us a cello, and I tried to write a song on cello, but again it was 2 notes, and I just ended up matching it to the keyboard notes and putting it on keyboard. But
and kind of talking about the band a little more, I know you guys are working on an album right now.
We just finished our 5th record.
Wow.
The Make It All show. I mean, it's out now. It came out May 4th. I remember that, the Star Wars Day.
May the 4th be with you, yes.
It's definitely my favorite yet, and it has Curtis, my brother, who just joined about, I guess, maybe a year and a half ago. Maybe it's coming up on 2 years. It's his first record. He's playing with us. It was our first record as a 3-piece. And there's just so many more layers. And I was actually writing kind of bass lines instead of just, when I'd write with my bass guitar before, it would always kind of be a guitar and a bass. But here, Peyton would put down a guitar track, and I'm playing with her. So I would use the E strings kind of be my bass lines, and then the C sharp and G sharp to kind of have almost more leads, guitar leads. And I use a bunch of crazy distortion. And yeah.
Well, and I watched some of your videos, especially Little Girl Blue and the Battle Envy. kind of caught my attention because it's got a very strong bass, kind of chordal bass vocal tie-in.
Yeah.
You know, and you're one of the unique people that can both play and sing at the same time. For me, it's kind of like two halves of my brain. If I'm playing, I can't sing, or if I'm singing, I can't play. But you're doing both.
I mean, I think maybe it's just because that's like why I started playing music, was so I could sing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, well, I don't know who I'm going to get to be in my band, so I should probably try to get as good as doing both of these things, you know, like not assume someone else is going to do it for me. And I started really simple, and then I just kind of, I don't know, every time I write a song, I try to do something I've never done before and just try to up my musicianship, up my abilities, and that's like how I feel like I'm growing. That's how I feel like I've written a good song, as if I've done something I've never really done before, never even thought of doing. It's just been natural for me, I guess. I mean, sometimes I can't play and sing the same melody over, like, sometimes I have to just record the riff I wrote,
Mm-hmm.
record several bars of it or several minutes of it on my phone and just like sing it then, and then teach myself, or record myself singing it over that recording of me playing it, listen to it several times, and then teach myself. Like, it can be kind of hard, but I don't know. I mean, usually it just feels kind of natural.
The songwriting. Are you writing the lion's share of Skating Polly's music, or is that a kind of a collaboration?
It's definitely a collaboration. On this record, I had more songs than Peyton. We like switch off on lead, but that was just sheerly because I just ended up, whenever we were ready to make a record, I had more songs ready. The next record, she might have more or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we can all play each other's parts. So there are definitely there are solos and stuff Peyton has that I would kind of, I wrote, or I would just kind of be like, I would hum her a melody and she'd figure it out, or we'd bounce off of each other back and forth. There's a lot of times, I mean, I just question everything I do because I have two other people who can do the exact same things. So everything was kind of a group effort, and then some things were like one person solely kind of working it out. I guess there are some songs where I did like the bulk of the work, but then there are others that, like, it's probably pretty equal.
A lot of times when people are listening to music, they try to kind of, I'm going to say it, put it in a basket of sorts where they go, this is this kind of music. And I've seen with Skating Polly, the descriptive is kind of 70s punk, alternative rock. How would you describe your music?
Well, I call it ugly pop, because I do think it's kind of just a hodgepodge of everything, but I really like melody. I really like pop. I don't like bad pop. I like, I don't know, I like Elliott Smith and like Fiona Apple and like the Beatles, you know, 60s pop. I like that kind of pop, and I like melody so much. I kind of try to go for there are a lot of like 90s bands that inspire me, and 70s bands, but we're not grunge. I actually like try to kind of avoid grungy things because like there's just already a lot of influence there, and whenever I think of like 90s, I think of like, I don't know, Folk Implosion, The Breeders, Nirvana, like everyone does, right? I think of, I don't know, just more than, there's this cheesy sound that grunge kind of evolved into, and I kind of like the more like raw, weird, off-kilter elements of it. And so that's kind of why I would like avoid using the word grunge, but I do definitely like a lot of 90s things, but some of the 90s things I like are like vastly different from each other. And I think the reason I like that era so much is just because that's the era my dad grew up in, and my dad showed me so much music. And I call it ugly pop instead of that because everything is like a pop song at the root. The focus is the melody, but we put all this ugliness and weirdness and off-kilterness, like a lot of that 90s music, or 70s punk, or, you know, just experimental things. And that so much so that like it's never just a clean-cut pop song. And I would say it's never just like a hardcore, straight-ahead punk song either. I feel like our punkest songs are kind of sing-songy even on the choruses or the verses. So.
And it's interesting because music is evolving constantly as we have the ability to listen to other people's music, and there is I think just so much of it is growing. You do get exposed to things, and that influences you, which in turn makes whatever you're doing different than the people in the 90s had, because they were influenced by something from before them, and so forth and so forth. And so it's kind of an ongoing. So I don't think there's anything pure. I talked to a player. They're kind of, I would describe them as classic rock group, and he kind of described them as prog rock. And I'm like, well, when I think of prog, I'm thinking some kind of way out there pushing the barriers where we are now versus, kind of sounding like Queen or something like that. But he says, no, we're prog rock in that we're progressing in our own music. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that works too. Getting away from that, let's talk, because we're talking about sound. How are you getting your sound? What instruments and gear are you using?
I use a Mustang PJ bass, a Fender. They were kind enough to set me up with it. It's kind of my dream bass. It's short scale, but it actually sounds really good despite that, being small. When we were recording in the studio and I got to play a P bass for the first time, I was like, wow, it just sounds so much better than my miniature bass. And he's like, well, that's because the wood's actually heavier, and that has a lot to do with the sound. I'm like, wow, it sucks though, because I don't want to carry a heavy bass. Yeah, it sounds good, and it's small, so I can jump around with it. My pedals, my soulmate pedal is the Boss Hyperfuzz, and you can't find it anymore. They don't make it anymore. I think Boss makes a fuzz, but it's not as good. The Hyperfuzz is the best. You can find it on eBay. It's just really gnarly sounding, really crunchy, but it's the perfect distortion, and it's not cheesy and it's not thin. I think it's very big. I use a levitation pedal, which is by Earthquaker, which it's reverb, and I use that for kind of more leady parts to solos or whatever. I use an OCD pedal, which I kind of use as just a volume jump or a slight crunch is what I call it. Here's my little distortion pedal. I'm gonna put my OCD on. I play out of an amp peg. I don't know exactly which amp peg it is. It's two different things. It's a head and then 4 tens. The sound guys are always like, "Is this 4 tens?" And I eventually learned that means 4 10-inch speakers. Yes, it's 4 10.
Any preference on strings? Anything?
Just nickel ones. Right now I'm playing. I don't know. My strings usually last me so long. I always forget what I got the time before. But I think right now I'm playing kind of on the thicker side, and I'm happy with that. Works pretty well.
Cool. Any preference on strings?
Just nickel ones. I don't know. My strings usually last me so long. I always forget what I got the time before. But I think right now I'm playing kind of on the thicker side, and I'm happy with that.
Looking ahead, I know you guys have some tour dates planned. You're going to be playing Washington State and the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, we're playing Bumbershoot, which is really exciting. That's a cool festival that we've been wanting to get on for a while, and it's our home state, so it's nice to play a festival in our new home state. And we're really excited to go back to the UK, because it's not even just the UK, it's also Europe. I think we're going to France, some places in Germany again. Yeah, it's a good month-long run, I think, and it's going to be great. Those people over there, I don't know, they really, really appreciate music, and they wait all year to see you, and it's harder for them to get merch, and it's harder for them to kind of even just be keep up with you, because you're on a completely different timeline. The sun's going down whenever we're waking up or whatever, yada yada. So it is really cool to just give those people their share. And sometimes if there's a language barrier and they still like your music, it's pretty huge. It's pretty exciting to know there are people all over the world that like your songs.
Well, and I find that music is very much a universal language, and so many times musicians from the U.S. are very well accepted in many other places of the world, even though they may not speak the language. And certain kinds of music will actually kind of feel better in our language. And I know that rock, many rock groups will sing in English, even if it's not their native language. The Brazilians are huge at doing kind of metal, and they sing in English. And I'm kind of going, wait a second, but you guys are Brazilian. You're not singing Portuguese. This is wild. If people want to know more about what you guys are doing or where you're going, skatingpolly.com is the best place to look?
Yeah, just keep up with us on Instagram or whatever, Facebook, because we always post about the shows. And hypothetically, if you're actually keeping up, then you can never miss a show when we come to your town.
There you go. There you go. Well, Kelli, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking time to tell us a little bit about your journey. We're looking forward to hearing more from Skating Polly. I'll make sure that people can see some of the videos. They get a kind of a sample, get a taste of what's happening here. Again, people, you've seen her here, Kelli Mayo, coming to you live on Bass Musician Magazine.
Thanks for bassing out with us here on BassMusicianMagazine.com.